This is a Jmix exclusive.
Well, we have a lot of details actually now, more than we had before. I got a call this morning about the matter that there was indictments that were handed down by a federal grand jury. We originally thought there were 9 counts and 9 indictments, but there actually are 10 indictments there. And so accordingly, we went ahead and we got this, which is actually the indictment itself against them. And it's about 30 pages in length. And it lists out what exactly it was that was done. And I'm going to actually read it because there's nothing better than just reading itself. And maybe Jesse can help me post it up there while I'm reading it, and we'll just kind of take it from there. What do you say?
Absolutely.
The introduction says that the grand jury charges that the Grape Street Crips is a national gang that originated in the Jordan Downs housing project in the Watts area of Los Angeles, California. The Grape Street Crips and its members engage in a network of drug trafficking nationwide. The Pita Roll Mafia is a subset of the Grape Street Crips of California. Montrell Ray Bernard, Tyrell Chance, and Donnell Toussaint are ranking members of the Pita Roll Mafia Grape Street Crips in California. Reginald Wright Jr. is a close associate of the Grape Street Crips. In or around 2013, and by the way, this is how long this investigation has been going on, since 2013, the Memphis Pita Roll Mafia, subset of the Grape Street Crips, was identified by law enforcement in and around the Bella Vista apartment complex in Memphis, Tennessee, in the District of Tennessee. The Memphis Pita Roll Mafia and its gangs and members engage in drug trafficking in the Memphis area of the Western District of Tennessee. The leader of the Pita Roll Mafia is Fred McCaster Jr., known as the original gangster, OG, and directs the activities of the organization. John Steels, O.B. Hildson, Ivory Trippett Jr., Clyde Wade, Raham Jones, Darren Beecham are all members of the Memphis Pita Roll Mafia subset. Jerry McCaster and Damian Cox are associates of the Memphis Pita Roll Mafia. Members of the Pita Roll Mafia subset of the Grape Street Crips, they're co-conspirators and associates operating in Los Angeles and elsewhere in California, were suppliers of marijuana and various pharmaceutical drugs to the Memphis Pita Roll. Mafia members, they're co-conspirators and associates who distributed the drugs in the Memphis area and in the Western District of Tennessee. Count 1. Beginning at a time unknown to the grand jury, but at least in or about March of 2013, and continuing until about May 5th of 2017. So you're talking about 4 years there. In the Western District of Tennessee and elsewhere, the defendants did unlawfully, knowingly, and intentionally conspire, combine, confederate, and agree together and with other persons both known and unknown to the grand jury to unlawfully, knowingly, and intentionally possess with the intent to distribute not less than 100 kilograms of a mixture of substance containing a detectable amount of marijuana, a Schedule I controlled substance as classified by Title 21 of the United States Code. Count 2. Beginning at a time unknown to the grand jury, but at least in or about March 2013, and continuing on to about May 2017 in the Western District of Tennessee, the defendants did knowingly, unlawfully, and intentionally conspire, combine, confederate, and agree together and with other persons, both known and unknown, to the grand jury to unlawfully, knowingly, and intentionally possess with the intent to distribute hydrocodone, a Schedule II controlled substance as classified by the United States Code, Title 21. Count 3. Beginning at a time unknown to the grand jury, but at least in or about March of 2013 and continuing on to May of 2017, in the Western District of Tennessee and elsewhere, the defendants did unlawfully, knowingly, and intentionally conspire, combine, confederate, and agree together with other persons both known and unknown to the grand jury to unlawfully, knowingly, and intentionally possess with the intent to distribute oxycodone, aka Oxycontin, a Schedule II controlled substance is classified by Title 21 of the United States Code. Count 4. On or about May 5th of 2017 in the Western District of Tennessee, the defendants, Reginald Wright Jr., aka Reg, aka Unk, and Montrell Ray Bernard, aka Ray and aka Big Ray, being aided and abetted by the other, did unlawfully, knowingly, and intentionally possess with the intent to distribute a mixture and substance containing a detectable amount of marijuana, controlled substance by the United States Code. Count 5. On or about January 25th, 2017, in the Western District of Tennessee, the defendants Reginald Wright Jr. and O.B. Hildson, being aided and abetted by the other, did unlawfully, knowingly, and intentionally possess with the intent to distribute a mixture of substance containing a detectable amount of marijuana, controlled one substance, in violation of the 21 United States Code. On or about May 20, count 6. On or about May 21st, 2015, in the Western District of Tennessee, the defendants Reginald Wright Jr. and O.B. Hildson, being aided and abetted by the other, did unlawfully, knowingly, and intentionally possess with the intent to distribute a mixture of controlled substance containing another detectable amount of marijuana. On or about April 29, 2014, the defendants Reginald Wright Jr. and John Shields, being aided and abetted by others, did unlawfully, knowingly, and intentionally possess with the intent to distribute a mixture of substance containing a detectable amount of marijuana. Count 8. On or about April 16, 2014, in the Western District of Tennessee, the defendants Reginald Wright Jr. and Lucinda Sanders, being aided and abetted by other ones, with the intent to distribute a mixture of substance containing a detectable amount of marijuana. Again. Count 8. Money laundering. From in or about September 2013 and continuing to on or about September of 2016 in the Western District of Tennessee and elsewhere, the defendants Reginald Wright Jr., a.k.a. Reg, a.k.a. Unc, Reginald Wright Sr., Fred McCaster, a.k.a. Boo Dirty, a.k.a. Dirty, a.k.a. Uji. Don't you love these names? John Shields, Jerry Sherrod McCaster, Damian Cox, Darren Beecham, Lucinda Sanders, Tamika Joyner McCaster, Brandon Kirkio, and Antonio Fisher did knowingly, unlawfully, and intentionally conspire, combine, confederate, and agree with each other and with other persons known or unknown to the United States Attorney to commit offenses against the United States in violation of Title 18 of the United States Code, to wit, to knowingly conduct and attempt to conduct financial transactions affecting interstate and foreign commerce which involve the proceeds of an unspecified unlawful activity, that is, of drug trafficking, in violation of Title 21, with the intent to promote the carrying on of unspecified and specified unlawful activity, that is, drug trafficking in violation, and knowing that the property involved in the financial transaction represented the proceeds from some form of unlawful activity is in violation of United States Code Section 1958A1. B. To knowingly conduct and attempt to conduct financial transactions affecting interstate and foreign commerce which involve the proceeds of an unspecified lawful activity, that is, drug trafficking, knowing the transactions were designed in whole or in part to conceal and knowing that the transactions were designed in whole or in part to conceal and disguise the nature, location, source, ownership, and control of the proceeds of an unspecified lawful activity, and that the property involved in the financial transactions represented the proceeds of some form of unlawful activity. The manner and means used to accomplish the objectives of the conspiracy included, among others, the following. It was part of the conspiracy that the defendants and their co-conspirators residing and operating in California agreed to send marijuana and hydrocodone and Oxycontin pills to the defendants and their co-conspirators residing and operating in Memphis, Tennessee, in the Western District of Tennessee. It was part of the conspiracy that the defendants and their co-conspirators residing and operating in Memphis, Tennessee, in the Western District of Tennessee agreed to pay for the drugs by making cash deposits in the bank accounts of the Memphis, Tennessee area. It was further part of the conspiracy that the defendants and their co-conspirators residing and operating in Memphis, Tennessee, and the Western District of Tennessee provided local addresses where the marijuana, hydrocodone, and Oxycontin pills were to be sent and or delivered. It was further part of the conspiracy that the defendants and their co-conspirators residing and operating in California utilized mainly the United States Postal Service to ship unlawful packages containing the drugs to Memphis, Tennessee, and the Western District of Tennessee. That shows how cheap they are. They probably could have sent them FedEx and it would have been a lot faster. It was part of the conspiracy that the defendants and the co-conspirators residing and operating in Memphis, Tennessee, and the Western District of Tennessee made cash deposits in Wells Fargo Bank and Bank of America bank accounts, and defendants and co-conspirators residing and operating in California withdrew the deposited money. It was further part of the conspiracy to promote the carrying on of illegal drug trafficking and conceal the source, ownership, and control of the proceeds of that illegal drug trafficking. Defendants, their co-conspirators, and other persons, known or unknown, engaged in financial transactions using the following bank accounts. And the list goes on to list the bank accounts referring to one Reggie Wright and several others that are involved with it. Count 10. This is the $10,000 deposit rule. Says that whenever you make a deposit, they file a currency transaction report for each cash withdrawal of more than $10,000. And they are requiring a financial institution that engages in a currency transaction, a deposit or withdrawal in excess of $10,000 with a customer to report the transaction to the Department of Treasury by filing a currency transaction report. These regulations also require that multiple transactions be treated as a single transaction if the financial institution has knowledge that they are by or on behalf of the same person, and that they result in either a currency received or dispersed by the financial institution totaling more than $10,000 during any business day. Some individuals, being aware of the reporting requirements, take active steps to cause financial institutions to fail to file the CTRs by making multiple cash deposits in amounts less than $10,000 on the same day or on consecutive days, or by utilizing different banks. These individuals engage in what is called structuring, because cash deposits are structured to avoid triggering the filing of a CTR by a financial institution in violation of Title 31. From on or about March 13, 2014 through April 8, 2014, the defendants did unlawfully, knowingly, and intentionally combine, conspire, and agree with each other and with each other persons and unknown to the grand jury to commit an offense against the United States, to structure currency deposit transactions with domestic institutions with the intent to evade the reporting requirements in violation of Title 31. McCaster would himself, and McCaster Jr. would direct others to provide cash to Hosey and other persons to make cash deposits below $10,000 into bank accounts in the following manner: into separate accounts held at the same bank on the same day; 2, into separate accounts held at the same bank on consecutive days; or 3, into separate accounts held at different banks on the same day and on consecutive days. And then they go ahead and they list when those deposits were made. $14,600, $16,000, $37,600, $30,790, $18,000, $24,000, $33,000. The list goes on and on and on.
Now, you laid out a lot of these types of allegations in Tupac Assassination: Battle for Compton. Do you feel somewhat vindicated by today's revelations?
You know, vindicated, I'm not. I don't know if vindicated would be a good word. I hear that word thrown around a lot. I think justified would be a better word. I feel justified that the information that we received about activities that was happening 20 years ago are still happening today. We knew that was the case, and we knew that if they weren't caught, prosecuted, all they would do is just shift venue and continue the operations. I mean, the Compton Police Department tried to reestablish itself, I believe, for that very reason. I think they kept trying to resurrect the Compton PD because it was a great money laundering operation and they had control over it, and they tried to do everything they could to resurrect that over and over again. It failed, but I think that was one of the ways that they tried to just change the style and nature in which they were money laundering. So I think justified.
What does this arrest mean for the Tupac investigation, in your opinion?
I think, in my opinion, I think it means opportunity. I see a couple of different scenarios happening here. Obviously, everybody in this country is innocent until they're proven guilty, but I think by the time they take the evidence to the grand jury and the grand jury makes an indictment and arrest warrants are issued, I would venture a guess to say the evidence is simply pretty strong. I see a couple of different options happening here. I think that in one scenario, the Wrights may try to cut a deal. I think Reggie Wright Sr. is in his late 70s, so he doesn't have too many summers left, and he might try to shave some time off of his indictment or off of his potential penalty or or punishment by perhaps giving some other corrupt individuals, sheriffs, some other people that were involved in this. I mean, this stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum. Reggie Wright Sr. and Jr. and 5 other people or 3 other people in California do not an entire organization make. So, I mean, they had information enough to give to the grand jury and get arrest warrants to be made. That doesn't mean that that's the end of the investigation, and it doesn't mean that there are going to be less, only 5 people indicted overall as a result of this operation. You got to realize the Operation Big Spender case was done in waves. I think there was 6 waves, where the first one they grabbed a bunch of guys, and a couple of the guys ratted out the next set of guys, and then they went and they prosecuted the next wave of guys. And the next wave of guys, a couple of them ratted out and gave more names up, and they went through, I think, 5 or 6 different waves over a period of almost 8 years, where they had new indictments against a new group of individuals based on the information they were getting from law enforcement officers that were willing to give up that information. And a lot of people think this is kind of a one and done thing. But I think what the important thing to take home is that, as we saw in Operation Big Spender, the case worked in waves. There was different prosecutors assigned, different U.S. attorneys were assigned, and while one was prosecuting it, the other one was following up on leads that were coming out of that first wave prosecution. So what I see here is I see an opportunity for them to cut a deal. Maybe they'll provide some information to try to get some time shaved off, maybe some leniency, maybe before trial, maybe after trial, and that would lead to further waves of prosecution. So that is one possible option. Another possible option here is that the Jeff Sessions, the U.S. Attorney for the Attorney General for the United States of America, decides he doesn't want to play ball with any of them, and they're going to make an example of these guys. Tennessee having some of the strictest methamphetamine, OxyContin, heroin laws in the nation. They might decide to make an example of these guys, and if they make an example of these guys, and these guys go away for a while, big federal sentencing guidelines involved, especially on more than one count. When you've got 8 counts against you, you're going to go down for something, and no matter how much you wheel and deal, you're going down for something. I think that at some point, and of course this is my personal opinion, I believe that if they do go down, I think that once they get locked up and kind of put aside, the same thing that happened with Death Row Records and Suge Knight is going to happen. I think there's going to be a free-for-all. There's going to be a lot of people that were either under somebody's thumb, maybe had some information to use against them, maybe Reggie Jr. had some leverage against them. I think that there are people that have knowledge still in Compton, both about drug dealing, money laundering, things that happened 20 years ago, and even the murder of Tupac Shakur. I think that once those guys cease to have leverage on groups of people or individuals, that those individuals may very well step forward now unafraid of reprisal and give up information that for the last 20 years they haven't really been able to give up because there's been some threat or some leverage being used against them. I could see that as a potential scenario as well. And then, of course, as more people are prosecuted in the waves I mentioned in the first scenario, maybe those people will also give up information, and of course we'll be waiting and standing by to see what, with our little baskets under the tree, kind of waiting to see what shakes out and what falls, right? And hopefully we'll be there to see the whip crack. But those are the scenarios I think might happen.
Great. Greg Kading has famously said that you owed Reggie Wright Jr. an apology. What would you say to that today?
Well, Greg Kading has said that everybody in the world owes Reggie Wright Jr. an apology, and that Reggie's a stand-up guy, and that he's had several lie detector tests given to him. I mean, these are all documented comments this guy's made, and he has backed Reggie Wright into the through everything he's done. put him on a National Geographic special with them, put him in Murder Rap, put him in all these things, all these interviews, bombfirst.com interviews, and just held him up to be this bastion of innocence and that he's a good guy, good all-around guy, go to dinner with them, go play ball with them, and ignored conveniently a lot of things that were done in the past. And the funny thing about it was there were people like Katie talking about, well, even if he did some stuff in the past, it's the past and maybe we should move on, forget about the past. Well, I got news for you. This indictment says that all that shit was happening into May of 2017. So if they're trying to let bygones be bygones, I got news for you. Nothing's been bygone at all. So what does that mean? Well, from where I'm sitting, this is my personal opinion, but from where I'm sitting, Greg Kading is colluding with people that are being indicted for felony drug trafficking charges. Greg Kading has put these federal indicted drug traffickers in his movies. He has collaborated with these people. He's done business with these people. What does that say about him? I mean, I don't know. Supposed to be this hotshot investigator, and I'm trying to figure out how Reggie Wright Jr. has been investigated for 3 years, or 4 years almost, and for all of his investigative prowess and all of the contacts he's alleged to have in the federal government, that somehow this has been kept from him, that he didn't know anything about it. And so I kind of wonder about, how good of an investigator somebody really is if all this stuff's happening around them to people that he's in there doing business with. And clearly they're not being honest with him, and maybe they were being honest with him. And if they were being honest with him and he's not saying anything about it, what does that say? So it kind of comes down to one or two things. Either Kading didn't know anything about it, which kind of begs the question of how after a 4-year relationship with somebody, you don't know that he's involved with this kind of stuff, number one, or maybe you did know about it. So, it could actually go either way. I think it'll be interesting to see what Mr. Kading does to try to distance himself from all of this. I certainly think it poses a big problem for him because, his boy was Reggie Wright Jr. This was the guy he said was his informant that gave him information about the whole Orlando Anderson thing, and he was very helpful in the investigation. Well, of course he was. So we'll wait to see what happens with all of this. It's a very exciting time, for sure. And as Ricky Ricardo would say, there's people have a lot of splaining to do.
Well, I've already seen a movement. If you look at the IMDb page right now, Reggie Wright Jr.'s name has been removed completely from the Murder Rap page.
Yeah, I actually didn't know it was on there, but that's interesting. I think one thing that's important to point out as well, and we do bring it up in this Assassination Battle for Compton, is that these guys are related to the Mexican drug cartels. They have pointed, the United States government has established a direct relationship with these defendants and the Mexican drug cartels. They won't say which one by name, but I'm sure that'll probably come up at trial. Okay? But that's important because this wasn't just some random, I got caught with an ounce of pot in my car in a baggie. And so I had it in my car and I crossed state lines, so they're arresting me for drug trafficking. I mean, we're talking about 5 pounds of heroin, 5 pounds of cocaine, 46 pounds of weed. Okay, this is moving bulk. Okay, this is a lot of stuff. And this is just what they brought to the grand jury. We really don't know how much they've really seized or how much they've seized over time, or whether or not the financial records will actually reveal how much weight was actually moved during that time, how much drugs actually came and went during that time. All this indictment is, Jesse, is simply a roadmap to the grand jury to be able to get them to give the arrest warrants and search warrants to gather more information, which would lead investigators to understanding how much more drugs and how much more weight was being moved. So this is clearly not, this is just the beginning. I mean, we're just getting started here, and it's already bad, so let's see how much worse it gets.
What do you say to those who criticize different channels, such as mine, celebrate that we're celebrating some kind of victory? Do you have anything to say to that?
Well, again, like I said, I think if you come from the position of saying that you're somehow vindicated, you get the V word, victory, vindicated, it all kind of runs in that same frame. I don't say that. I think what we're rejoicing is that we're justified. I think we're happy. It's a good day for us because we've made claims that have generally been laughed at. They've been scoffed. A lot of the claims in Compton, even though we had good information behind it and we had evidence to support it, was clearly something that people either felt was in the past or just wasn't relevant or wasn't important. But at any rate, it was trivialized. And so now that it's not trivialized anymore, now that this information is out there and shows the color of the individuals that we have been talking of for 10 years, these people here, if you read the indictment, these people are not stand-up citizens. These are not model citizens according to the U.S. government's indictment. These guys were selling drugs, making money, and laundering it. That's what we said about them in Compton, in Battle for Compton. That's what these guys are doing. So, again, are we running out there doing a victory lap? No, we're not going to do a victory lap because we have so far to go. And I think that there's going to be so much more information that's going to go that, we'll have a lot to rejoice of later on. But right now, I think that the main reason that we're happy is because we feel justified. We feel justified in our convictions and justified in what we've said, that it can no longer be looked at as laughable. It can no longer be looked at as trivial. And it can no longer be scoffed at by the likes of a Greg Kading, who now should be looked at for his involvement with Reggie Wright Jr., who's now being indicted. Reggie Wright Sr. is now being indicted. Maybe Greg Kading should be looked at too for it. We don't know. Maybe he is. I don't know. But there is at least one other investigation that we know of right now that deals with drug trafficking coming out of California in the Compton area and other areas, and it's not related to these guys, so anything's possible, I suppose. I mean, yesterday we didn't think we'd see this, so what's going to happen tomorrow? I don't know.
What is the significance of the Grape Street Crips being involved? They have been named on several news reports and possibly in the indictment. What does that say to you? Do you take anything out of that?
Well, in Battle for Compton, we had it out there that part of the reason that Suge Knight was a target was because there was friction between the Crips organization and the Bloods organization at Death Row Records. It wasn't the Crips versus Tupac in Las Vegas. It was the Crips at Death Row versus the Bloods in Death Row, and the animosity that was there. And, even when it got to the point where Bloods were acting against other Bloods in the effort to take out Suge Knight, certainly most of the people that have been alleged to have had knowledge of either before or during the commission of that crime were associated and affiliated with Crips, including Snoop Dogg. I mean, there's been so much talk these days about exactly what was Snoop Dogg's involvement, if any, in the case. And, it's well known he was Long Beach Crip. I mean, so if you believe that there's friction between the Crips and Bloods, and you believe that Suge was affiliated with the Bloods, we don't know, but it definitely does. If they stake Reggie Wright Jr. and Reggie Wright Sr. to be associated with the Crips, well, now you got more on the Crips side of things, and the Crips are the ones that seem to have kind of stayed out of Vegas when that was all happening. So that's what I take away from it right now, but we'll see more later.
We now have validation that Suge Knight's known Blood member, his head of security, now we know has ties.
Right. I mean, we definitely know that that's what their affiliation was. Now, whether they've been jumped into the gang or not, there's probably people who are going to nitpick that all day long, as they always do. Whether or not, well, Reggie wasn't really jumped into the gang, he was just affiliated with the gang. Well, okay, Suge Knight was affiliated with the Bloods, Reggie Wright was affiliated with the Crips. I mean, I think they're affiliated with whoever they can sell drugs to. I don't know that there's necessarily an affiliation. I think for purposes of this indictment, that's what they've alleged. But again, time will tell. We'll see. But that's who they're hooking them up with right now. here's the thing I think I want to add. I mean, honestly, I think this had to happen in Tennessee. Okay, I think it had to happen outside the LA legal system. I think that these guys have had protection on a number of levels. I mean, Reggie Wright Sr. is named in this, and again, yes, people are named in these indictments from a federal grand jury. Again, his name is in here. That's not a trivial matter. They didn't just include Reggie Wright Sr. because he was jaywalking or happened to be at the scene when one of these things happened. I mean, they have substantial evidence against Reggie Wright Sr., who worked as a lieutenant for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Okay? And that information that they have is enough to get a grand jury to put his name on an indictment. So if there was nothing there, then obviously he wouldn't have been named in the indictment if there was nothing there. But this is not inconsequential. This is not substantial. Reggie Wright Sr. was involved, as was Reggie Wright Jr. according to this indictment, and we need to give it that weight, the weight of a federal indictment. Okay, again, this wasn't about a baggie in your car while you're driving over state lines and they catch you with a baggie of weed. This isn't like that at all. And you have to ask yourself that question again. You got Darren Dupree, who's sitting there at the LAPD, supposed to be in charge of the Biggie and Tupac case. How is it that all of this federal investigation could have gone on, and yet the guy who's in charge of Biggie and Tupac and Reggie Wright Jr.'s name in the middle of that case, how come he wasn't told about that? I mean, clearly Greg Kading says that he and Dupree were part of a federal task force and that they were in joint with the ATF and the DEA and the FBI and every other federal arm that they claim to have been involved with. How is it that all this stuff happens and Dupree doesn't know anything about it? How does he not know anything about it? And if he knew something about it, how does Kading not know anything about it? So there's a lot of questions that's still, kind of rolling around right now. And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
I do want to add that Reggie Wright Jr. was one of the first people to know that Russell Poole had died at the LA County Sheriff's Department.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely seemed to have a pipeline and a fast track to the Sheriff's Department and information being given by the Sheriff's Department. And but again, like I said, that at this point, that doesn't seem to matter anymore now, does it? He's looking at 10 counts against him in a federal court, and I think the federal government has about an 85% conviction rate with the charges once they file them. 85% of the time they hit their mark. So, we'll see if Reggie is the 15% where they don't. But I think this is the time that I don't think he's either one of them. I don't think they're getting away. I want to say this, and I want to talk to the audience for a minute. I believe that somewhere right now in heaven or wherever people go after they die, that Frank Alexander, Michael Moore, Russ Poole, Buntry, Heron, everybody that died around this guy Reggie Wright Jr., that knew him, that was involved with him at all, that Reggie Wright gloated about, those people are up in heaven laughing their fucking asses off right now. That's all I got.
Yeah.